7 o'clock. I thought we would start tonight. So this is an informal meeting, open house. If you don't like asking questions publicly, we'll gladly answer questions afterwards privately, just so you're aware of it. I do want to, I am going to use some of the people I've asked to come here tonight to answer some questions and go through some things so they have really good understanding. So Lucas here and Sean here. So they are the head jailers, number 1, number 2, that handle our jail in our county. So I've asked them to show up, and maybe they can explain a little bit about the 2 options we have on the table today. And then we'll go into our sheriff back here, Vic Williams, and then I'll answer some questions too that the county board has situated. If you don't know who I am, I'm Burl Ives. I represent District 4. So it's southern half of the county, Itasca County. How's that? So if you don't mind, I'm going to turn this over right now to Lucas. You can get up and walk around with this if you want to, Lucas, or you can sit here and just look. Everybody has a handout, and if you guys want to, we'll be looking at the first handout. We'll be dealing with, I'm going to call the option, the orange option, which is a downtown option. Okay, so we'll kind of go through that one first. That makes sense? Okay, and then so the green option, which is way over here in the far right on the wall, we'll talk about that secondly. And here's our sheriff, Mr. Williams. How's that? Vic, we're going to have Lucas and Sean will start things out, and then me and you after that. Sound all right? So maybe you can do a rundown on the orange, and we can kind of walk us through that building, what we have planned. I'll step in when needed. All right?
Okay.
Okay.
For clarifications, as he said, I do run the jail. I'm not a politician. I don't speak in front of groups. All right, so we've got the orange option. So we did a space analysis or a needs assessment with the architect to figure out sizing. The jail, roughly projected at 200 beds with all of the functions we need inside, is about 74,000 square feet. So that's what drove the box you see on the orange. So the footprint going west would be eating up Vanity Cleaners, the Pilates old building, and the fire department to get the 74,000 square feet. This is the actual first floor of the orange. So we have housing units, food service, laundry, support, sally port, programming, all the main functions set up in an efficient design for a correctional complex. It's got drive-through sally port, a place to park a semi on the side to deliver stuff. This is the old annex footprint. We'd be using that as a training room, conference area. Again, this whole piece here is about 74,000 square feet. The second floor, this is actually open mezzanine style. So there is a second floor in each one of the cells, the pods, but it's open. So there'd be bars coming down on a mezzanine, and there'd be bunks on the top and there's bunks on the bottom, but it's open from the ceiling to the floor. That equates for these spaces is the mezzanines. This design also incorporates 2 courtrooms above the current annex footprint. This would be helping with the courts issue we have with not having enough court space and the courtroom sizes we have in Itasca. In a nutshell, that's the orange design.
Well, so it's why we're adding 2 courtrooms. Right now, we do have a judge with us here tonight, but right now the state of Minnesota says that we are at 3.8% judges. We have 3 that are sitting judges right now. State of Minnesota says we're on the verge of having a 4th. So we are thinking forward, saying we need to have 4 courtrooms. So just so you understand what future thinking is a must in this deal. This can't be a 10 or 15 year building. This needs to be a 30 to 50 year building, at least 30, if not 50. So so that's one of the reasons why we're looking at a 4th courtroom right off the get-go. Both plans have 4 courtrooms in it. So just so everybody understands, mezzanine, as Lucas was telling you about, the way we hold prisoners today is something different than how we held prisoners 10 years ago. Maybe you guys could, you know this, maybe you can explain a little bit of that.
The current jail, the main jail built in 1982, is what we call a linear design. It's basically like a hospital. There's a hallway, there's cells as you walk down the hallway, called linear. Staffing ratio is 1 to 25. For every 25 inmates, you have to have 1 staff. My staff basically walk around, count heads, and make sure people are safe within every 30 minutes. The other 25 minutes, the inmates are unsupervised in the cells. The new designs would either be direct supervision or indirect supervision. Both of these concepts would have both concepts in them. So the direct supervision is 1 to 60. It is direct supervision. There's going to be a desk with a correctional officer sitting at it and up to 60 inmates in there at one time. So the guard is actually in with the inmates the whole time. With that particular design, staff assaults and inmate on inmate assaults is a lot less than it is in a linear setup. So it's much safer for everybody involved. The other one is indirect supervision. So if you picture a pie, so you've got these walls that separate it. There's cells with a wall, but there's 10 here, 10 here, 10 here, 10 here. There's glass, then there's a guard station. He can still see everybody, but they're just subdivided out and there's glass in between everybody. That is 1 to 40 ratio. So either one of those concepts is much more efficient than the 1 to 25 we're currently running.
And the design that we have now in the linear style jail is a model that they are discontinuing and they don't want to use in a form of corrections anymore. And just for historic value, you can see the linear style in that diagram on your page. What is this, the second floor? First floor? Second floor. Second floor, you can see the complex and design of the old style jail. And basically, when they're not being seen every 25 minutes, whoever is the strongest one in the cell is running that cell. So with the direct supervision, which Lucas is talking about, and the indirect on the new style that we're looking at, that would allow for supervision at all times. Just to give people a historical view on this, the old annex portion of the building, we've all heard the question of why didn't you put the 2 floors on when you could have put the 2 floors on? Well, if you look at this layout right here, there's no way that we could accommodate this in the 2 floors that would have been even able to put onto this, let alone make it a security level grade of concrete that may have addressed it. We wouldn't have had the square footage. So we're trying to address these needs. Either one of these designs, a green space or the downtown option, we're looking at capacity and square footage to handle future needs. That's what we're looking at here. Wherever you put this jail, we need that square footage. The complexities come in is when the operations portion of how it relates to the courthouse. You don't want to build a jail even 5 blocks away and then have to meet the court calendar every day of going back and forth with prisoners. So the thought process is, if you don't build a public safety center in a green space, we need to address being attached to the courthouse and do some upgrades and do something to address the security and the needs that the courthouse is looking for. That's where we're at today. So when we look at these designs, and Burl can add on to what he wants, and then we'll go through a questions and answer session, is neither one of these we're going to get for $10 million. That's the sad part, because everyone is facing tax dollars and a lot of big projects in Itasca County right now. So we are going to have approximately, the last I heard, is 27 public meetings trying to explain this and get input from the public on what we're doing. You've probably heard that the 2 funding options is the levy dollars or looking at a 1% sales tax. The 1% sales tax is different from the levy, is that the levy addresses simply homeowners, property owners, business owners in Itasca County, where the sales tax of 1% would address anyone who does retail business. And the amount of volume in Itasca County for that 1%, now 55% of our sales come from outside entities. Tourists and what have you would also be helping us build our facility. So that's what we're looking at now, and we're going to try to approach the state on legislation. But in a nutshell, that's where we're at today. Is there...
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about payment. We're kind of getting towards the very end of it. But let's talk a little bit about payment. So property tax. So District 4 here, we pay 4/5 of all property tax in the county. Okay? So every $4 you pay, Dan, if I lived, you know, in Effie, I'm adding a quarter. You know, so for the other 4 districts that we have in our county pays a quarter to our $4. So I have, as a county commissioner, and I've been going to a grocery store is an hour-long process. Because I mean, the real deal is this, people are tapped, you know, they don't want to have their, so I'm leaning the other way. I'm leaning towards more of a sales tax. I'm just telling you how I feel. Unless you people tell me something different, then I'll listen to you. But that's how I'm kind of feeling right now, that the people I represent are kind of maxed out on their taxes. So with that in mind, so 50%, you know, so, and all of you, if you don't know, I'm in the hotel business. So, you know, last weekend when I had three hockey teams in my hotel, guess who's going to help pay for our jail? I mean, everybody who comes in, if they're buying gas or they're buying groceries or whatever it might be. Don't forget the people who rent houses. You know, they're not in paying property tax. They'll help pay with a sales tax. So and these are options. We're giving you 2 options. The people will vote at the end to say, we like option A or we like option B with the idea. One option we haven't talked about, and you have a handout on it a little bit here too, is to do nothing. Don't build a new jail. Don't do any of that. You know, which means we'd have to send out all of our prisoners to some other jail in some other county at, you know, between $2.5 to $3.5 million per year. That's what it would cost. You'd be driving down to the Twin Cities every day. St. Cloud, Brainerd, maybe Thief River, Duluth. I mean, you'd be sending, you know, the sheriff's department out all over trying to gather our prisoners to bring them back to sit in front of our judges to do what they need to have done, and then turn around and drive them all back to the jail that they're staying in.
The impossibility of that is the fact that in order to accommodate the court's calendar, it's an improbability to be able to transfer that type of prisoner volume over that amount of space. And the other jails don't have the occupancy space to take on our 150 to 170 prisoners that we average per month. So we look at this as that our rural proximity is difficult because we really have no options. The closest correctional facility is over 70 miles away. I think Aiken County is our closest one. We do a lot of exchange with them, but they're only able to accommodate 10 to 11 of prisoners overrun. And we've been as far away as Wright County. So the ability for us to house out all of our prisoners because of our location would not only be a nightmare of trying to meet the court calendar and transporting these prisoners every day, but we would also have to maintain some type of correctional facility or holding area for the prisoners we bring back daily, because the courts aren't a correctional facility. The courts simply do the hearings, they hold the hearings, and then we have to hold the prisoners somewhere until they're either transported back or we have to have accommodations here with correctional officers regardless. So that's the difficult part. Right now, what Lucas and Sean have done is they've tried to put our calendar ones, or our people who are serving time, and our least offenders out in these other places, so that our most dangerous offenders are staying here with Itasca. So we are putting a lot of burden on our correctional facility here because our highest profile offenders are kept here, and we house out a lot of our low offenders or people sitting time to try to minimize the going back and forth. But it does get difficult and it's a nightmare, and if we went to that all the time, then it would be a transport nightmare. That's my concern even with building a jail by itself away from the courthouse. We'd still have to accommodate that daily transport, even if it's over 5-6 blocks. We're exposing them to transportation in the public realm, and we open ourselves up to great liability. So those are some of the strategic things of doing nothing that can affect us. 1998, they recognized that they needed a problem, so they built on the jail annex, which addressed some of the needs and absorbed some of the portions. In 2007, Bamaduri once again went to the county board and says, I'm going to have to look at building a 60-bed unit, secure unit, to add on to our growing rate of prisoner occupants. At that time, the projection was 6% per year growth is what we're looking at. County board decided not to do anything to address that growth.
That was 7.5 million at the time. And they said no.
In 2007, those numbers have stayed almost true to form in what we're housing out today. So we're to capacity here, and when we talked about capacity, the rules of how corrections applies, and I will leave this to Lucas and Sean because they can explain it better than I can. 107 beds we have here doesn't mean we can keep 107 prisoners here. You can only keep what ratio matches your correctional officers here. So our maximum we can hold here, I believe, is 67. Is that correct, or how does it, can you explain that?
There's two. There's approved capacity, so let's say we build a jail that's 200 beds. That's our approved capacity. Now we have an operational capacity. Roughly 20% of the beds need to stay open for classification and moving inmates around. So even when you build 200, it's not like you're filling 200 beds. 20% are going to stay open so we can move people. Now as classification has changed, when me and Sean started, I'd call in from the booking room and say, where do you have room? He'd say, I got room in this cell. We didn't really look at classification back then. It's wherever the space was. Nowadays, all the inmates housed are housed with the same level or alike offenses. So you come in, we've got a matrix we use your crim history, your current behavior, your past behavior. If you're under the influence, medical conditions, we put it into a sheet, it spits out a number, and then we house you with alike people. Well, we've got to split that up, and let's say we've got a cell that's got 12 beds in it and I only have 4 of those people in there. I can't fill the rest of the beds. The beds have to stay until I get other alike offenders. So saying we've got 200 beds, saying we have 107 beds, well, there's usually about 20% that are left open.
And for busy days, you have to have some open too?
Well, there's a variance and a leeway. So let's say I go into the weekend and I'm pretty full. Let's say we've got a great weekend and we get 20 bookings. The DOC is okay with eating up those 20 beds as long as after Monday's court, I start actively looking for places to house the people. Because of our current situation, anytime I'm above 57 inmates, I have to send an email to the DOC, and each day I have to send an email until I'm below 57, because we're under a microscope right now and they're tracking us on our approved and operational capacity.
Everybody understand what DOC means? Department of Corrections? Okay. They gave us a sunset letter to our county.
We are a county facility. We are licensed through the Department of Corrections as a Class 3 facility. So people say, well, we're a county facility, so let's not deal with the state. Can the state shut you down? Technically, the state can't close you, but they will pull your licensing, which essentially closes you. Minnesota Insurance Trust, nobody will cover you insurance-wise. You're done.
What that says is we can keep operating, but it's at our own risk, which is not what you want to do when you're housing people. One of the things you will see in the expanded jail design that we're looking at is not only occupancy, but trying to meet the burdens that are put on the correctional facility every day. As far as a medical unit, this one will have a special meds or a special needs unit, which because if we do build a jail design and if we refuse to confront mental health issues that are coming into these jails, then we're derelict in our duties, because there is a huge mental health need. And right now we have to ship mental health patients as far as Fargo and Duluth in order to hold them and still meet the same court calendars, because they have a right to go to the courts. They have a right to appear. So we are going to include in this, I think it was a 10-bed unit to start out, to try to meet some of the mental health needs too, because of the amount of the health condition and the mental health condition that we are incarcerating people with right now is getting worse and worse. And I don't know if a lot of you know that, but once we take them into our sole custody and care, we are now responsible for all of that stuff. So there's a tremendous burden on the county jails just with that, and trying to supply programming and needs for those people coming in at the worst time in their life. So when we try to address those in our facility needs, it's not just people that are in trouble for getting a DWI or burglarizing a house. There's components that come with each one of them that we have to address, and we have their full care and custody while they're in our care.
Okay. Let's go on to option number 2, a green site. So far drawing here. This is the one in your packet, if you picked all that up. Maybe Lucas or Sean can talk a little bit about that, and we'll go forward. And if you would, Lucas, make sure you explain what's in the court building, you know, what's in the jail building, what's in the...
Yep. First thing you guys notice is the price tag on this one is substantially higher than the price tag on the other one. There are some reasons for that. This one's not laid out on a piece of property, on a backdrop of a map. It's a general concept design we've had. This is the complex. Now each piece is separate, so we have courts, jail, and law enforcement. The jail's the same as I talked about over here on the orange. It's 74,000 square feet. Now where this starts to get different, where this had the 2 courts above the annex over here, that's about a 9,000 square foot piece. The courts over here is 47,000 square feet. It has 4 complete courtrooms, a hearing room, all the, as we call judicial sets, all the offices, county attorney's office, probation office, I'm missing one, court administration.
Child protection.
All of them are going to be in this piece here. That's why it is substantially larger than the other piece. It's a complete, basically taking a new designed 3rd floor and putting it over here. Law enforcement center is the sheriff's department. And like I said, the jail is the 74,000. Each one has an expansion. And obviously this all needs to be tweaked. Once you're inside doing schematic design, everything will change. But these are just the square footage layouts. Anything else?
So, you don't mind, so you're asking, I'm going to tell you some ideas behind option A and option B, or orange and green. The green one, I'll talk to that. The green one is this, so we're adding, you know, child protection, probation, lawyers, the courts, you know, I guess that, you know, that's kind of in a nutshell.
All of the public safety related entities.
Correct.
So these are all things that are related to the courts and the conduct of law enforcement and corrections.
Okay. So with that in mind, we did a space analysis of our old courtroom, our old courthouse at this point in time. And, you know, the backbone of that building is still relatively good. It could be repurposed. So with that, we looked at, and by we, I mean the task force that was set up before, we looked at what can go into that. The idea was to take Health and Human Services, that if you've been around a long time, they occupy the old Pomida building. Okay, so we took that department, the Health and Human Service Department, moved it into the courtroom, the old courthouse. They would occupy the 3rd floor, part of the 2nd floor, and basically the sheriff's department in that neck of the woods utilize that as much as possible. They end up with 8,000 square feet more space by going into the courtroom than staying in the Pomida building. Now, the Pomida building, and this is Burrell's opinion, the Pomida building isn't really worth much money, but the backbone, the structure of the building is still good and usable. The roof has just got redone. It does emit their HVAC units are up to date. Yes, it's an old retail store. There ain't very many walls. There is plenty of bathrooms in there, that type of stuff. So how can we reutilize that building? One of the ideas was to do this, and I'm gonna, so Vic here, we have a, you know, your impound, the old North Star lumber up by the hockey arena we use for, you know, impounded cars, that kind of stuff, storage of some of the summer boats, so on and so forth. And we would transfer that down to the Pomida building. We might have to put a fence up around the parking lot. You can't see that building already from the main highway. I mean, as retail goes, commercial retail, it doesn't really have, you could have bought the Kmart building for $1.8 million with 12 acres. Okay, so Pomida building doesn't have a lot of value on that aspect as a retail building. So the other thing could go into that building real easy. The county owns a building right behind the Holiday Station, right next to Burger King. There's a nice red building there, 30 by 50 or something along that line, used for storage for his department and another department, but that could be retransferred down. And then the other one is the land department building. That's over in Pomida, or over in La Prairie. And that building there, I think it has some value to it. And that department could be moved into the old Pomida building too, split it in the middle, similar to what we have now. And why I'm telling you all this is this, because condensing some of the buildings that Itasca County owns, I think that we could sell those 3 pieces of property and help bring down some of this price that we're dealing with today. And then the other 3 gets back on the tax rolls again. So it's just an idea. It's Burl's idea. I don't know if other commissioners will like the idea. It has been brought up before, but just so you understand, what are we going to do with the empty spot? There's been some of the talk, and we have done some space analysis. They can get this online, can they not? Yeah. So our trails task force that we worked on for Jails task force. Excuse me. Jails task force. Yeah, that's all right. I sit on the trails task force too. I apologize.
Don't blame the trails task force.
I won't. Good people there.
Yeah.
Yes. So jails task force. We spent what 10 months, 11 months on this, something like that. But you can download everything that we talked about and all the pieces of property that we looked at. You can download that to your computer and see what we saw. We did spend months looking at all different types of property. Our first property that we looked at is where the orange drawing is going. Then we went east the other side, and then we went to the green area down. And maybe I should explain the city of Grand Rapids to them. City of Grand Rapids zoning. You only can build a jail in 2 spots. Downtown business, which is basically from the miners on the west side of town to the opposite side of the courthouse and down to from 5th Street to the river. So that's downtown business. Yep, that's the downtown business zone. So you can build it there, or you have to build it in the industrial zone. That's it. So
without a variance. There are other places, but you'd have to go in for a conditional use and try to get it for an extended period of time. And when you try to find a home for a correctional facility, that's great, Vic, but not by my house.
yeah,
That's a lot of what you hear. And a lot of people downtown, from visitors and stuff, don't realize they're walking by a jail when they walk by our current facility. So what we're trying to do is to dispel some of that fear. When we talk about replacing some of these, our problem is we've been faced with a need, and we have to address it. We're having these community meetings now because we want to hear how we address it, because I know everybody's wore out with the cost of government projects. There's none of us here don't realize that. And when I opened a letter that said they're going to close the jail, when I just knew that an $88 million school bond referendum passed in Grand Rapids, I had a sinking feeling in my guts thinking, how on earth are we going to talk about building a jail for the next 10 years, let alone right now? So we know that. There's a lot of you that live under that burden. So when we looked at it and we look at the different financial options and the different things that we can look at to try to finance this package, right now our out-of-county costs per year would basically accommodate a bond payment, because it's costing us as Itasca County citizens for this expense already, because we're farming them all over the state. But we have a cost of keeping them here too. So that's not a total and clear cost. We would just reduce transportations and some of the stuff that apply to it. But when we look at these designs, our goal is to meet safely accommodating these prisoners and somehow keep it attached to the courts, regardless of where we put it.
That's where the real money savings is when the courts, you know, and the jail are touching, where you don't have to bring them out into a car, you know, to transport them. And I will tell you, your liabilities just go like this when you do that with it, and your cost savings goes out the door. So, I mean, there's kind of the things we're doing. You know, I'll give an idea on this. And you have a printout here in your packet. Gives a little layout of some things. Geez, you had
Cost?
yeah, a little bit of the cost, but yeah, you're not really. Are you?
This one, Bill?
Yeah, got it. I don't know if you guys.
That's the transportation.
This is a transportation one. That doesn't work.
This is the one that's the...
Yeah. So right now, I'll give you an idea. The orange option right now is running 50. I'm gonna round it up to 55 million. The green option is running 64 million. Now, did you guys adjust the property here a little bit? Did you? You did. That's taking in the fire hall and the price tag they want for that? It is, eh? Because the last number I saw didn't have that at all.
Correct, the fire hall is adjusted to a particular number that was given to me, and
Okay.
the other properties still follow the same formula.
Okay, all right.
2.5 for the fire hall, and then the balance is the other adjacent properties.
So, you know, there's some question marks there yet of price tags of buildings and being able to purchase that land and what you're going to purchase it for. The new construction remodeling dollar, I'm just going to tell you, if you've done any remodeling in any house, it's very hard to put a dollar figure once you open up that wall and what you're going to find out. So this is an estimated guess, and it could go higher, it could go lower, but it is what it is. Remember that our courthouse was built in 1949. So we are going to take a brand new building and attach it to a 1949 building. Question is, you know, will we be able to put our needs into that building? Now, future expansion. As a commissioner, I'm going to tell you I have some concerns about future expansion. I feel that I'm a little bit locked in to the orange, where it'll be very challenging to have future expansion. What happens in 20 years, you know, you're going to be the commissioner, and you're sitting here and you have to have the decision, I have to add another 60 rooms on. Where are you going to go? So that's one of my big concerns and longevity of that building. How are you going to handle that in the future? And maybe jails will be totally different in 20 years. I don't know.
Maybe we can shrink people and keep them in little capsules.
Yeah, I don't know that, but that's one of my big concerns about the orange at this point in time, future expansion. So
the availability is there. It is that Miners Corner of the North Print building. That is an expansion. Each one of these jail plans do accommodate a hallway dead end that would accommodate another pod in the event that someday they would need more. I think it's important to allow room for expansion. Right now, there's no indications that there's going to be a reduction in inmate housing. One of the things that's scary is in the middle of all of this talk and expanding our jail and knowing what our current occupancy was and how it has been, the state now, in order to save some money, is thinking about cutting back on the prison system. Well, their idea of cutting back on the state prison system is to close a prison. That would transfer inmate longevity and stays to the county jails. So the state saves money, but it's a cost shift to the county jails. And which is disproportionate because it only affects the counties that have correctional facilities. So that's another challenge we face, is that if they're going to do that, that would increase some of our inmate occupancy, which we do not need right now. We can't house what we're getting locally, let alone what the states are willing to do in order to close a facility to transfer some of that housing.
So, just so all of you know, we have crunched numbers. Do I think that the green site could be crunched better yet? Yeah, I do. This is a starting point at this point in time. Do you need, a courtroom to be 24,000 square foot per courtroom, or can we get away with 18,000? Some stuff like that. Does he need a sheriff's department, at 20,000, or can we get away with 12? So those kind of things, we've had talks already about that, which could bring down both I guess, numbers. Get down, shrink it right to here's your need. I think we all understand this isn't going to be a Cadillac plan. This is going to be a Chevy Malibu. That's what this is going to be. It's not going to even be a Buick. It's going to be a Chevy. Nice Chevy, but it's going to be a Chevy. So nothing wrong with Chevy. I own a Chevy truck. I'm just telling you, this ain't going to be a Cadillac. So it's not going to be. And I think we've had that talk.
Oh my God, have you had that talk with us?
All right.
The thing we got to remember too is that the jail task force, when they were assembling different stuff and ideas and concepts, we looked at not doing nothing to a green space. And people goes, well, okay, you picked a green space, of course you're going to want new. No, our task was to determine what would be the best long-term impact and cost value for the county. So we chose that investing in a 40-year building with the dollar amount similar to attaching to an older facility or upgrading and leaving parts undone was the best long-term fix, looking down the road of a green space with spot to expand out of the downtown area and then backfilling what we vacate. That's why we came up with that idea, because we don't want to fix this so in 20 years or 15 years you're going back to the taxpayers and asking for 30 more million. It seems like you see the government coming and we just got our hand out. Well, society's changing and we're forced to address these needs. And afterwards, when we're here for a bit, if you have questions about that, I think we're almost ready to move into the questions and answer thing, because when you talk about how it's almost, you think, well, just build it, and if it holds 200 people, put 200 people in there. And the rules that they put over housing people makes that even more convoluted. So in order to hold 170 people, when we know we're doing almost 150, we have to build 200 in order to stay under the 170. And I'm hoping someday that we don't have to have another pod of 60 more people. But society dictates that, not us.
So before we get into question and answers, there's one more thing, and I'll be quiet, and we'll try to answer any question you have. And if you don't like speaking publicly, we will wait behind. You can ask us privately. So it has been asked, where else have you looked? All right. So in our first meeting, we had the city, we had the county staff there, we had general public, courts were there, lawyer was there. So we had good representation of what's going on and having some good input. you know, we asked for help from the city. I'm gonna be very blunt, and I'm gonna probably get in trouble for saying this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. We asked for help. They have land, especially in the industrial zone, that I would like to buy cheap. None of that's for sale. It's been told to me 3 times now, no, no, and no. Only in an emergency, and it's your last ditch, you know, of the only choice you have is to go on to one of their pieces of land. That's the only way they will sell it to you. Which was very discouraging as a city taxpayer too, to hear that. But and we've had a couple other no's. We couldn't build to the east because of a creek. So we started looking everywhere. And this is the real deal. We looked at Cohasset. We looked at La Prairie. We looked at Harris Township. We looked at a ton of different pieces of property. Moving out of the city of Grand Rapids changes, you know, your classification as county seat. Legal advice gave me, not easy to do, doable, but not easy to do, lots of red tape, which would slow us down. We are underneath a time crunch. But yeah, no, we looked at the Rainbow. We looked at the industrial zone over in Cohasset. We looked at the old Ainsworth property. We looked at a piece of property over here in Harris Township that could handle it. No, I mean, we started looking everywhere. But our time frame is tight, just to let you, so everybody understands that. So, red tape, you know, who knows how long it would take to move your county seat, I don't know. But I wasn't really willing to find that out. So, but with that in mind, let's go into questions. You know, I'm going with the better looking one, Jeff, to begin with. Is that all right? Okay. Go ahead, sir. If you would step up to the mic and so everybody, at least on ICTV, can hear us and the whole bit. Is that okay?
Fine.
All right. Could you step up to the mic? Yeah, beautiful. And we'll try to answer your questions. I might not have to answer.
I don't know if it's a pertinent question or not. Where did this mandate come from that you have to be out of that courtroom or facility by the year 21?
So Department of Corrections did a sunset letter to us.
What is this sunset?
Sunset letter? Yeah, maybe you could.
What do? Shut it down?
Correct.
They could.
They will shut it. They can shut it down. They give, when they serve a sunset letter, they give ample time for a community to go through the process and have build time. Currently, we're behind schedule on their sunset letter.
When did you get this letter?
What's the date on that?
It was the year that they did the referendum, so it's
2017.
April of 17.
Yeah.
So that the community that I see now is almost held under a shotgun. We get this going.
There you go. I don't know the date off the top of my head. I apologize, but yeah, they were trying to fix all of the deficiencies in the old jail, and in a nutshell, I'm going to tell you that was, some of it was undoable. Water, sewer. We have a sewer problem in that old jail, and the way that it was constructed, pipes are too small for the problem. Oh, you know, when an inmate flushes their uniform, you know, it's flooded our basement twice now of the courthouse.
April 25th of 2018 is when they served this letter on us. And it's not just the deficiencies of the courthouse, or of the jail. It's a combination of deficiencies, our outdated design for observing prisoners, and our inability to occupy. We're over-occupied, and we're housing out all over the state of Minnesota. Those three things bring together the idea of, now we got to talk about doing something. With the sunset letter, they basically take away your licensure, which we could keep housing prisoners, but it's at our own expense. And if one of them gets sick, or we have injury in the jail, or there's no insurance to cover us.
Or death.
Is there any way that they help you then in making sure that we meet their requirements?
We are looking to try to get some federal dollars. It would be through more of a, I guess an Indian or reservation grant.
The reservation will participate, but it's only for planning and design, a lot of that, and it doesn't, what this does is, whether it's the courts, whether it's the state of Minnesota who license us for stuff, everything to do with the county jail, the county facilities, or the county offices falls squarely on us. To supply courtrooms, to supply correctional facilities and supplies. The state monitors and directs it, but they very seldom will put any money toward it.
State of Minnesota ain't gonna give you no money. No, I'm sorry to tell you that bluntly, but I'm gonna be that blunt. They're not gonna give you any money. No help.
They'll give you all kinds of advice, but
No. Jeff, if you don't mind, come on up.
First question I have is, what's the cost of the land? That's not added in the 65 million.
Don't know that.
it's an unknown.
Wouldn't you think you'd have to know it to give a fair assessment between the two? I mean, is it 2 million, 5 million, 7 million?
Don't know.
That's gonna up this cost a whole lot more.
Could be.
Yeah,
Yep.
and also, you know, if we wanna pay for this, why don't we pull our heads out and get a hold of the governor or whatever and cancel the fiscal disparity that Itasca County is paying to St. Louis County and everybody else. That's 20%. Wouldn't that cover a whole huge amount of this cost? That'd be a no-brainer in my book.
Yeah, and we talk about that.
I've upset the whole town because I told everybody. Most of the businesses had no idea that we're paying money to St. Louis County to run them. That's ridiculous. It's just asinine.
But we talk about that every year.
Yeah, and
so-
nothing gets done.
No, I know, and it's gotta be done down in the state of Minnesota, changed over. We have, and by we, I mean our Itasca County people that represent us, have 2 votes. And, you know, St. Louis and Lake County and so on and so forth have a little bit more votes than we do. And we get outvoted on that. Now,
Of course,
I
we're
would
taking
tell
money
you,
away.
Well,
I
could
would tell you that
for
we-
people in the room that don't know what fiscal disparities is, could you explain it in a nutshell?
you wanna give it a whirl, want me to give it a whirl? So
All I can tell you is that because Itasca County does well, we have to pay a portion of Itasca County tax
20%.
dollars from the businesses to St. Louis County, and it's about $4 million a year, and they end up giving us back 1.5, 1.7.
Yep, something like that.
Jeff Walker could, if you ever want to watch Jeff Walker's blood pressure go up, ask him about fiscal disparities and what happens as a result of that. Because it lands squarely on our businesses, and those businesses are taxed, and it's the IRRB footprint that is taxed for this fiscal disparities.
Right.
And that money comes out of Itasca and is paid to St. Louis County, where they disperse it to counties who are doing not as good as we are.
Yeah.
So because the businesses in Itasca are doing well and performing, they pay to support the surrounding counties in that footprint.
You know, there's two big,
In a nutshell,
huge,
he's dead on.
there's huge problems with that.
I
I've been in
understand.
business 40 years. I've been paying a lot of taxes. Okay,
And besides businesses, Jeff, it's done on the housing stock too. So it's kind of a both deal.
it's only business.
But
Fiscal
no.
disparity is only, look on your property tax
So
statement.
we know what, but
Fiscal disparity says 0 on homeowners.
yeah, but in the equation, in that equation, how they figure it,
Yeah,
the housing stock of the age of the housing stock adds into
Your performance.
your performance.
and the biggest no-brainer for our city is Walmart, Home Depot, all your big box stores. Tax-free for 10 years. We still have to pay 20% of whatever the projected tax is.
No, I know. Minnesota.
That's beyond stupid.
Minnesota Power.
Projected on the value of those big boxes is spread out amongst the people who are paying TIF. or the,
Exactly.
not getting in the TIF.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's goofy beyond goofy.
So,
Well, I like your idea. I'll be honest with you.
That's the only way I'd accept it.
No, I like your idea, but I'm not, I'm just being honest, Jeff.
It's-
That'd be a hard one.
The businesses of this area are already taxed beyond
I know.
belief. I'm over $1,400 a month. Property tax.
Yeah.
For a little bitty business, a one-man business,
I know.
Jeff,
Okay.
hang on a second.
Daniel, go ahead.
There's something else you gotta realize when you're talking about getting rid of that fiscal disparity. There's only
We'd
two
still pay
places.
it.
There's only two places in the state that have it. Us and one area in the metro. Now, the other problem up here is the representation that we have at state level, guess who they cover? It ain't just us. They cover Nashua, Keewatin, Hibbing. You think they're gonna throw those votes away? Not a chance.
not a chance. We're in deep.
We're in deep doo-doo. I agree wholeheartedly.
and Duluth,
And Duluth, well, yeah.
that's what Chip said in our area.
Okay, question as far as the green site.
Sure.
Okay, he made a comment about don't know the property cost yet. I agree. Believe me, I've been digging hard trying to find other places that you've already, you and I've talked about it before. There are several places we've already talked about you don't feel adequate because they're not in the city of Grand Rapids. Personally, I don't care if we move the county seat. If we do move the county seat, maybe these idiots running Grand Rapids will stop spending all the money that they classify as free. Okay, next thing is, how many people, if we go the orange one, how many more people do you have to have for staff? That's not figured in here.
No, it's not. That depends on how we model it. If we opened up the entire facility at one shot, probably an additional post and a half, which would be 6 to 8 staff. Same with the green site, because it's going to be the same concept.
So it's going to be the
size.
same amount of staffing regardless of which direction it goes.
Correct. But
Okay,
we could
that's-
choose not to open a pod for a while and get the facility running and see how it's going, and then open a pod down the road and hire the additional staff 6 months, a year down the road.
Okay, because I was wondering if, you know, that could offset some of the cost of the green site if you're using less staff there. But you're already looking at, okay, if
You could do that in both, orange or
Right.
green. Yep.
Yeah,
As he's
if you're
just
looking at,
pointed.
I'm looking at the green site, I look at the orange site, and I go, okay, why does the city want $2.5 million for that fire hall? Now, mind you, they just stuck a bunch of money into it. Okay, that in me is a stupid move anyway. They want to move build a new fire hall somewhere on the south end of town. Okay, because they got a problem with the railroad tracks. Well, guess what? Half the city is north. You're still going to have a problem with the railroad tracks. $2.5 million, not counting demo, for one building is ridiculous. Now, I know the city likes to jack their prices up. They bought some property over here. They got 19 acres from the old Kent farm. It's been, what, 8 years ago, probably, 7 years ago?
$560,000.
$560,000. Over $500,000 for 19 acres that they still haven't utilized.
No, and it's not for sale.
Nope.
I asked about the land, just to let you know.
Nope, they
Not
have
for sale.
property just north of there, a little bit, that is also not for sale.
Correct,
I know that, they want to lease it.
correct.
Okay, that's BS. The reason they don't want to sell it, from what I originally heard, was they had funding to buy the property with 66% from the state. Guess what, if they sell it, they got to give the state back money. Well, they don't want to do that, that'd be senseless. You know, I hate to keep condemning the city, but doggone it, they're not helping us out here. And personally, I like that idea. I think there's other places, even within the city of Grand Rapids, that we can look at. What's wrong with asking Blandon to donate some of the property that they have in the city of Grand Rapids? I mean, the old showboat dock and the school bus garage, they got roughly 20 acres down there. That's all in city limits, on city water and sewer. To me, that's a given. They got that from the city because they wanted to build a biofuel plant there. Well, who in their right mind is going to make any kind of a fuel plant next to a river? That's just plain stupid. Plus, I don't believe they'll ever do anything with that property, except eventually sell it. Why not sell it to the county? And
So here's a your idea about the biofuel, that everybody knows what a showboat is? Okay. Not zone proper. You're not in downtown business. So I can't build it there unless I go to a special rezone on it.
You can
Which
get
I-
a rezone on that.
Well,
Can get a condition.
you might not, you don't,
You
I
know,
don't
I
know,
think
but
you can because you have a gas plant just on the road.
I understand.
In fact, you got two of them.
I understand. I'm just telling you where,
Oh, yeah,
where we
I
had
know.
here was our area where we could
But
build without having a problem.
Yep, and you can't spot zone, okay? However, there's ways around it. I know there is.
And Dan, our task force, I guess we didn't look at where the old paper mill was, right next to the river.
Yeah,
When we asked about available properties,
Right.
they limited what they showed us and did not want to entertain any use of our jail stuff towards any other properties. That was made clear in the beginning. So we focused on a single property that we had the chance to buy at one time for $130,000. That's what that question mark would have been, Jeff, wherever he's at. That's what that would have been for 13 acres. It would have taken some work. There are other properties that are similar to that, in that cost range. The problem that you have with some of those is that the minute everybody knows that the county's looking, the prices go up. But we've had people approach us with vacant land in property and tell us that, hey, what about this one? And me and Burl are at odds over one thing. I think it's important for a facility this size to be near sewer and water. City sewer and water utilities, I think it's important because it's a massive facility to have to try to operate a mound system or a standalone septic or well. So
but it can be
it can be done,
I know
but then that's
there's
just
a place
another
outside of
maintenance
Marquette,
portion you
Michigan.
add to keeping it open. And
There is a prison outside of Marquette, Michigan that is a standalone unit, and it's a much bigger facility than we have.
oh, no, that's huge. I know what you're talking
And
about.
I'm not afraid.
Togo's the same way.
No,
And I'm not afraid of not having city water and sewer.
no,
We have a housing community, 100 house housing community that have their own well and their own sewer system. So I know it can be done. You know, having a system that you have to sprinkle, so on and so forth, so now you're gonna have to do 2 wells. You know, you already have to have a backup generator, but that's already a given. You know, how much water does a sewer, or does a prison really go through? You know, you're doing low flows, you're at 1.5. You know, this building, either one of them, I'm gonna tell you, is gonna be a smart building. There is no reason to build anything today that doesn't, your lights are gonna be computerized, your HVAC, your heating, your hot water, everything is gonna be monitored.
I agree.
To try to save as much energy as possible.
Okay.
I mean, that's a must.
I want to get,
You know,
before somebody else wants to step up.
Sure.
Okay, there are other properties in the city that are or can be for sale. They don't have to belong to the city. But that way we'd still have city water and sewer. And I don't feel you're gonna have to spend $500,000 just to get a parcel big enough to put a jail on. Okay?
Dan, would you be willing to list some of them and get them to Burl? I mean, we're trying to
We've
direct
already
people to
talked
their
about some of these,
commissioners.
but yes,
But we need to route them to the commissioners because they will bring that stuff to.
you have a survey, if you would, put down some of your ideas on, hey, you know, I like this idea, I
Yeah,
like
we'll
that
talk
idea.
anyway, but yeah.
Would be wonderful.
but I lost where I was going. The other thing is, I look at that versus that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at, okay, I got kids here that are probably gonna be living here 30, 40 years from now. I got grandkids here that are probably gonna be living here, with any luck, if the jobs ever come up. Okay, I don't want them to have to go through this crap again.
Amen.
So I want it built well enough the first time that I don't have to put that burden on them down the road. And you know dang well that somebody else is gonna put a burden on them anyway. But if we can eliminate some of this stuff, let's just eliminate some of the stuff.
I agree. I
And
agree.
I also, when the comment you made about Harris Township or District 4, spending 4/5, you know, that's really, it's aggravating. You know, I know it's the way it is, and a lot of it is because of the tax base around Pecagama Lake. But it's still aggravating that for every $4, the guy north of Grand Rapids puts in a quarter. You know,
And why I said that to you, Dan, and all of you, was just so you kind of know how I'm leaning. Unless I'm told differently by people who live in my district that, you know, they're okay with raising their property tax instead of doing a sales tax. I'm leaning towards the sales tax. That's why I kind of explained it to you.
Another thing I should have mentioned,
Okay.
yes, I like the sales tax idea.
Okay.
I like condensing it into this green site, getting rid of the buildings that we don't need, the land department, the old north side lumber, the storage building behind Holiday. Who in their right mind and has a business in town that wouldn't love storage right downtown?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now that's a no-brainer. Get rid of the land department building. Put them over in the Pecagama, or in the
In a Pomida building.
building. Sell them, and there's no reason we can't sell some of the other tax forfeit property that was back on the tax rolls. That would condense a lot of this cost down. But, you know, I know there's some people that work in the county aspect that, man, oh no, that's mine, you can't have that.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, it ain't yours, it's mine, and hers, and his. You know, let's get this back on the market.
So, for instance, I'm the one who brought this up, but I'll throw something at you. So you have county land, and then you have tax forfeited land.
Yes.
Okay. Tax forfeited land, we have to share the sale price of it. So, let's say I'm the county, you know, you're the school district and you're the township, Sean's the township. Well, I got to share. I get to keep 50, he gets 25, he gets 25.
Correct.
If I sell county land,
You don't have to share.
we just get to keep. There isn't so much land like that. There's 3,000, 4,000 acres of it that the county owns, but there's 300,000 of tax forfeited that we oversee.
Oh,
So-
in that same regards,
Yep.
now, okay, county gets 50%,
Yep.
then
It'll
school
help the
district
school
gets.
districts, it'll help the
Yeah,
townships
school
too.
district
Oh,
gets
yeah. No, no, no.
25%. Well, you know what?
Yep.
That would also help pay down, if they would pull their heads out, would also help pay down the bill we gotta pay for these new blasted schools that most people didn't want. So, you know, there's a way that you can benefit both sides.
Yep. Yeah, no, I understand. How about other people? Mr. Casper,
Good afternoon or evening, I guess.
good evening.
Thank you for having this forum. I know, most people know, or anybody that follows the board meetings, that we lost $250 million in
Land value.
land value because of the Blandon deal and
Yep, it was a,
MPNL. And it-
if you don't mind, it was 154 million from the public utilities. We just lost that. And there was another 160 million with the Blandon land deal? So
The number
give or
that's-
take about 300.
the number that's always thrown out
Yep.
at the board meetings by the auditor and others was
Speak up,
200.
please.
Yep.
Sorry, there was $250 million that we've lost in taxable land value in the last 2 years. And that was due to a lawsuit that was brought up by Blandon and Minnesota Power and,
Yep.
but we're also probably gonna lose, I've heard an estimate of another 100 to 150 million from Enbridge.
Well,
And that's a big possibility, so you're talking $400 million potentially in land value that we're losing. And how do we make that up? We don't, we're not going to. So my point of bringing that up is, it seems like we're getting out of the scope of what we originally wanted to do here. The Department of Corrections, I've read the report from beginning to end. Basically, we did zero maintenance on the jail, major maintenance, in the last 12 years. And it got us to the point we're at. That's hindsight 2020, we are here, I understand that. But building a brand new facility, or even doing the other with how many more square feet, what confidence do we have that you guys are gonna maintain those buildings even? And we're not gonna end up where we're at again in another 10 years or 20 years. We have to do the maintenance on these buildings just like we do on our homes. I need a new roof this spring. And if we don't, we will end up where we're at. It's the same excuse that School District 318 has given us every time they want a new facility. They basically let Riverview School deteriorate to nothing. You know, they closed Wendigo School, they closed Balsam School, and to force us basically to build these new facilities that we're building. So the DOC report, nowhere in it did it say we have to build a new facility. It said we have to fix the deficiencies in the facility that we have. That's what they required. I've read it beginning to end. So the estimates on here for a new jail are $38 million. Nowhere does it say we need to build a new courtroom, a new sheriff's office, and the other facilities that you're talking about, social service offices or whatever it is. So we should be concentrating on what this is about, building a new jail. And I understand going to a green space, it's not really practical because of transferring prisoners. The cost, it wouldn't be cost effective. So it really goes back to, you know, remodeling the facility. We're not just remodeling, that's a whole brand new building, top to bottom, footings to the ceiling, other than the little bit of remodeling that will be done on the old building. So to say that it'd be more cost effective or it'd last longer because it's a brand new building, so is that. That's a brand new facility. So I guess my point is we should just be concentrating on fixing or building the new jail at a cost of $38 million rather than the $64 million. And I don't know where that number came from because it's always been $70 million right up to last 2 board meetings ago. So someplace, somewhere you guys fudge the numbers or cut them or however it happened, I'm not real sure. One more point, Mr. Snyder and Mr. DiNucci, and to Leo Trunt's credit, in 2 weeks' time, they came up with these ideas.
Oh, it was more than 2 weeks.
Okay, a month then. But the time that you got it back, the drawings, it wasn't over a month's time. They might have been thinking about it before. The jail task force went for 10 to 12 months, you just said, and it always pointed to that right there. You did talk a little bit about going to the east. Well, let me finish and then you've had a lot of time here. Not seriously to the west side, little bit to the other side, and it was always we can't because of this, whether it was the river or whatever. And it didn't make any sense anyway because the other jail, the existing jail, was on the west side. So the east never did make any sense. And you've told me that personally, you believe that also. So this orange option to me makes the most sense. And we always hear that we need these new courtrooms and everything because of security. Well, I've worked in 38 states in this country. I've been to courthouses all over and federal buildings. They usually have one entrance coming in. They have metal detectors there. I don't know why we're doing it the way we're doing it. For the employees, they usually have swipe cards so they can come into the back entrances. In other words, there's ways of solving the security issues. Having to totally redo all new jail or all new courtrooms and stuff, that doesn't fly when there are ways to answer. Just even with the judges coming in or the prisoners coming in, time it out so the prisoners are coming in at one time and the judges are another time. They're going to be in the same courtroom sooner or later. I mean, you're not doing it by TV. You have your right to have your day in court. So it just doesn't seem like we think outside the box. There's always other ways to solve these problems than throwing money at it. And I think that's what we're doing when we want to spend. And I've been in construction all my life. I put 1,000 wind turbines up all over the United States, $450 million job. So I know a little bit about construction. You might as well add 20% onto these figures by the time you get done. And if you've done the house remodeling or your businesses, you know.
I've built 6 hotels and remodeled.
Exactly. So I know you know a little bit about it too.
I know a little bit.
So, and it happened with School District 318. How many more millions? 10, 12 more million than what they originally said. I mean, it's easy to try to sell something. Just be truthful and honest with us. or the people out here what it's really gonna cost, you know?
Sure.
And you said you did a analysis of the square feet of, say, the Permita building
The
versus
space, the
courthouse
space
and stuff.
analysis, yep.
I never ever hear anything about a cost analysis. I mean, if that's the direction you're looking at, we should be able to find out what that cost analysis is. You know, on here it says $7 million, or on Leo Trunt's option, which I wish it was here too, because it was a good option. It was $7 million to redo the courthouse and stuff. You know, is that what you're guessing it's gonna cost to redo it if you move the Permita people over there and stuff? I don't want an answer right now, but I just think in fairness, why are we not getting these costs out to the constituents out here, the people, so they know? Maybe it's a great idea, I have no idea, but I want all the options. I want to know what it's going to cost us.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Casper. Lois? Thank you for coming. Yep.
I'm Lois Lang. I'm a resident of Harris Township. I'm here speaking as a taxpayer for this area. I also was the district court judge for over 20 years and worked in this courthouse building. And the first comment I want to make is in both of the, well, I should say in the second plan, or the, I don't know which one's
Green,
first.
I go green and orange. How's
Okay.
that? Yep.
In the orange plan, I think we've lost focus on what actually needs to be done to incorporate a courthouse that's workable for the future. And this last gentleman who just says, all you need is one door and don't worry about it. That's a simplistic view of what security is necessary. This has been a concern in that building for probably the last half of my time in there. And there was a remodel done to address some of it, and it's not sufficient. And if we're gonna spend money on a jail, we might as well, in my view, address the entire problem. And I don't want the courts to be overlooked. I recognize the jail needs to have action, but so do the courts. And I'm speaking both as a resident and as a former judge, because I'm worried not about judges. That's not the issue for people to say, oh, the judge shouldn't be scared. That's not the issue. The issue is the people who are coming in there should have a safe place where they can come and address their issues. And they should also have a place that's up to date. This remodel, I don't know what this $177,000 means for remodeling, I don't know. But you have up-to-date, you need up-to-date electronics, you need, the courtrooms are outdated. We have a couple plug-ins that we fought for
Right.
when we last remodeled.
Right.
And frankly, the whole third floor needs to be redone. And just try and fix this existing 1949 building is not a good use of taxpayers' money. There is a need for more judges. We're anticipating more people coming, apparently, in terms of people going to jail. There'll be more people going to the courts. And I guess I was surprised. I thought after almost a year of a jail task force group that included everybody aware of all the issues, I don't know where suddenly this orange option came from. Because it was my understanding the city didn't want to sell any land. Did they change their mind?
Well, they paid for the drawings.
Pardon?
They paid for the drawings.
No. Well, did they tell the task force?
The county hasn't paid for the drawings.
Didn't the task force, weren't they told by the city they didn't want to sell the fire
Correct.
hall? So
Well, they didn't want to sell. They didn't want to sell anything.
Okay, so
That's
what
changed.
happened?
That changed somewhere.
Do you know why?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, I wasn't.
Would have the answer
I wasn't
to
a
that
part. I
question.
wasn't a part of any of those
Would that
meetings.
be the 3 commissioners who voted against buying this land for the cheap price? Would that be
Yeah.
who I'd ask?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you bet. I'm being blunt here, people. That's just the way I am. So I mean, it's what you're gonna. That's what you get with me. So, how about anybody else for questions? I hope I answered you correctly, Lois. So, anybody else got any questions? Oh, come on. Oh, yeah. There you go. Kelly?
Thank you for having this. My name is Heidi Chandler. I'm one of the 3 sitting judges here in Itasca County. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you for coming.
Hope we don't see you again.
Yeah, if you don't know who she is, it's probably a good thing.
Like I just say to everybody, I'm happy to visit with anybody that comes to visit me in my chambers. So I'm happy to visit just to say hello and introduce yourself. I was not on the jail task force. One of my colleagues, Judge Wawasik, was on that task force, and she's not able to be here tonight. I want to speak to what Judge Lang had said earlier. The issue of security is at the foremost concerns of the 3 judges. And as Judge Lang noted, it's not our security that we're most worried about. It is the security of the persons that are coming to the courthouse. If anybody has been there on a Monday morning, or a Monday afternoon, or a Monday evening when we're still in court, you'll know how packed those hallways are, the lack of air circulation, the conditions that people have to wait. When Commissioner Ives stated that we're presently at a 3.8 judge need, he's not kidding. That's why our hallways are packed, and we're going until 8 or 9 o'clock at night, because we have to accommodate the calendars so that people don't have to wait even further down the road to get their court case heard, come into court. So we spend many, many hours in court. Some days we have 5 judges there. We have a judge that's visiting from another county because he or she is handling conflict cases. We have a child support magistrate there as well. Plus we have the 3 of us. We have 3 courtrooms right now, plus a small hearing room. We can't handle 5 people at one point, so we're sharing. Now, granted, that doesn't happen every day, but it does happen on occasion. There are other times, I'll be frank, when all 3 courtrooms are not being used. That happens. Things settle, thankfully. If things didn't settle, boy, would we be in a world of hurt. You might as well have 10 courtrooms. In any event, I want to make sure that everyone is aware it is not the judge's security that we're most afraid or worried about. We're most worried about the people that come to the courthouse, the people that are waiting, the victims of crime, the families that you're there to support in a divorce, in property disputes, anything. We need additional space. What we have now is not sufficient to accommodate those things. It is a liability waiting to happen right now. We have excellent security in jail, court deputies that handle security for us. They're trying to monitor courtrooms plus the hallways. I've not had a chance to speak with the commissioners or the county administrator about the orange option and how it's a lack of addressing the 3rd floor of the courthouse at this point, as well as the 2 different levels where we have courtrooms that are proposed in this plan. My concern is security there, that it is not a secure setup that way. You have courtrooms in 2 different parts of a building, trying to monitor that, people coming and going, and very difficult if an incident should occur. Trying to keep the public safe. That's my biggest concern out of all of this. The courtrooms that we have right now are not adequate for space, nor security, nor accessibility. You have a jury that you're trying to pick for a case, a criminal case or a civil case. Many people have needs, wheelchairs, walkers, scooters. I've had them come in my courtroom, service animals. The space we have right now is not adequate to accommodate those things for jurors or witnesses or attorneys who have those needs as well, nor the litigants themselves. Existing space is not adequate. So, thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, Judge. Thank you so much for coming. How about anybody else? Any other questions you want to ask, or anybody who wants to ask it publicly, or will gladly stay behind? You can ask us privately, no problem. We'll try to answer your questions.
And we're all on the county email, and if there's any concerns you'd want to put to our emails, address it to any of the board members or myself or Lucas. We're all on the county website.
The old sewer treatment plant, you look at that, that's for sale, right?
The sewer treatment plant is for sale?
The old one on River Road.
On River Road.
The task force did originally look at that. It was offered at one point in time that, hey, this is gonna be for sale. But it had some big unknowns on what you'd have to remove and what you'd have to abate from the, and if you look, just the contaminated soil remediation on this one is estimated at $500,000. That's just for the chunk under vanity cleaners. So if you look at that, I think it's 24 acres, the old one there. If you look at all of the soil, it's an unknown. I'm just not crazy on unknowns. I just kind of like some hard facts.
I hear you.
But that was one that was.
We did look a little bit more south of the old sewer plant, you know, around Arrowhead Promotions in that area. That's zone industrial. There's property there. Yes, it's owned by the city, not for sale. Big enough size for what we needed.
The old Jones farm?
It might be the, I guess I know the parcel. I can see it in my head, but it's right across from ASV in that neck of the woods, right? It's big enough. I meant to do what we need. Wasn't for sale, so I go at that point in time. Anybody else?
I guess
One more question.
I'm pretty much all about statistics, so maybe I can get this information. I've asked for it before. How many incidences have we had in the last 20 years in the courtroom? From minor to serious?
I don't know that answer.
That would tell you a lot. Granted, I'm not doubting the judges at all in any way, shape, or form. I've just always wanted to look at both sides of everything.
Sure.
And the orange space does address the court situation. They're right there, two court facility or whatever, so. That's just a question I wanted to ask. Maybe I should put a data request in, I'll do that and find out and say the last 25 years or whatever, how many total incidences that there's been.
I have no idea, Scott, for that. How about anybody else for a question?
We do really appreciate everybody coming out. Come on up if you got a question.
Okay.
But the only way to put these is now to go around and do these meetings like this, and we'll try to get out to more. There's 2 next week, and there's one Monday night in Arbo and one Wednesday night in Wabana. So that are the next 2 most recent ones coming up.
I'm Paul Koskinen. 2 simple questions.
Sure, Paul.
One is, no matter what funding method, sales tax or a real estate tax, will they sunset when this is paid for?
The sales tax would.
Yes.
What the sales tax would? Okay. Right. Second thing is, driving down Interstate 35, I used to work in Pine City. In Pine County, they went up.
Yep.
So with Orange, is it possible to engineer in there, if we do go with that, if we do need to expand, could we beef up the footings and stuff, so if we do need to expand online with our grandkids, they could put another stack or 2 on top?
All right, so Pine looks like it's up, but the jail's on one level on the top part. So what you get with the orange is with the mezzanine style, in order to save money, you do skylighting versus windows on the exterior. We have to have so much square foot of sunlight to get into each day or living area within the facility. Also, it works as a smoke evac during a fire. The fire department can break the skylight and set a fan up to smoke evac. So to try to go up, we would literally have to spend another 3 or 4 million on making sure you could go up. And when you go up, each level is considered its own jail for staffing purposes. So you lose your efficiencies. The expensive part of a jail isn't the construction. 63% of the cost of a correctional facility over its 30-year life cycle is staffing. The construction is only 10%, and you've got 18% for inmate care. but it's literally the staffing is what is the burden upon the taxpayers. So my goal is to try to build or to help the concept to get the most efficient design we can get as it comes to staffing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for your knowledge too, so this has been modified once already. It used to be underground parking underneath this one too, 180 cars. And then they found the price tag and that got scratched right away. But just, you know, and for Dan's, just so everybody understands this, so there was 2 other ideas that got scratched already. This is what has survived, orange and green. There was a blue one that was basically on the same property as this. It took in, instead of taking in the fire hall, it took in the North Print building, which is this building right here. And then there was one on the east side that the task force kind of drew out. We had to buy 2 blocks at least for size and parking. Understand that one thing, that when you're building in a downtown business, you don't have to have any parking. You can build right up to the sidewalk. I mean, right up to the sidewalk. I mean, the problem is, so if you're going to add a 4th courthouse, where are those? Have you ever been to the courthouse on a Monday? I mean, it's very challenging to find a parking spot. Now you're going to add another one, so it even gets more challenging. So I have a little concern that way. Do you have to? Is it mandated? It's not. It's not. So, but yeah. How about anybody? Any other questions? Yes, Jeff. Go ahead.
I have one question. Doing the 1% sales tax or the property tax, either one, doesn't matter which one you do, how long do you figure that's going to take to pay off this $65 million? Just
we'll
in
probably
time to do it again?
What's that?
Just in time to do it again?
I think the 1% estimated one, on 1% was 30 years, but the 30 years, it depends on the bond payment and the final cost.
Correct.
You could probably accelerate that, but you don't want to ask for the formula to be set at something that's not going to fund it.
Right.
So you can pay it off sooner with the 1% sales tax, but to ask for it for 20 and it ends up being higher priced and goes 27 years, it gets back. So you want to ask for a threshold that at least covers it formula-wise. And then once we banter out the price and we get it down there and we can pay it off in 20 for that 1%, the formula sets it so that whatever you put as the target for the sales tax, upon completion, it's done.
So it'll never be done?
No, the sales tax would come off.
It'll never be done, because when you're done with the one, you gotta go another 30 million.
No, you gotta reapply.
No, you can't.
You have to reapply.
Well, this isn't the school.
They say that. No, I shouldn't say that because you're right.
Sales
This ain't the
tax are
school.
not at 1%.
Right,
Now it's gonna be
right.
temporary. 3% temporary, 5%, 6%.
Yeah.
There's no temporary, it's continuous and it gets worse. Not better.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you that too, and we've applied to the state for an option of a sales tax. And our apply was basically a 1% at 78 million. Okay? 78 million or 80? 78, 76 million.
The
When they
30 year?
applied- Yeah, they.
75 with a
75,
roof,
okay.
and then whatever the 1% was per.
It's a 1% max. Now, so let's say you do option orange and it costs you 55 million. Well, I can go up to 75. If I'd have put in the number 55 million, anything above that, you will have to pay out of pocket. It's gonna go out of off your property tax. Commissioner Snyder, I'm sorry I couldn't answer your phone call when you called. We were chatting. Come on up. Oh, come on. Oh, come on up. Join us. We're just about done, though.
Time to go.
Yeah, no. And maybe Mr. Snyder can talk a little bit about the Orange project here a little bit. He was chief idea man there on that aspect, and we've had great communication talks, just so you're aware of it. There has been numerous talks about green and orange, but maybe anybody would like to ask Mr. Snyder about the orange side. He can answer it better than I. it was his idea and to go forward. How's that? Lois, you bet.
I have a question.
Hi, Judge.
I was wondering why after almost a year of a jail task force where I thought all of the issues had been addressed, I've read the report, and it was my understanding that the city of Grand Rapids had no interest in us building on their property by the fire hall. And suddenly, after the report is done and a year's gone by, this orange thing option comes up. Can you explain that?
I might be able to. I can't speak for the city of Grand Rapids. I don't know what questions were asked
Well,
of them.
you
or-
were the one discussing it with them, weren't you?
I did, but let me back up even farther, though. Whatever discussions happened between the city of Grand Rapids and the jail task force, I'm not privy to that. I don't know what conversations were had and with who.
Mr. Snyder was not part of the jail
No.
task force. Was
You were, though.
Yeah, I was,
Really?
and,
Yeah.
and Mr. Trunk, Commissioner Trunk
Right.
was. Yeah.
Am I correct when I say the city had no interest in selling fire halls back then?
Back in the day.
Okay.
Back in the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, not knowing that these questions were or weren't asked of the city, recognizing that there's a potential for another option, which was to the west, myself and Commissioner DiNucci approached the city administrator and Mayor Adams and had a discussion. We had one meeting with them.
Were the other commissioners invited to this discussion?
Well, we have to be careful we don't violate the open meeting law, so there's two of us.
Is that the most there can be then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you
So-
did you tell the rest of them?
Some of them knew, and so I'll just say to...
Why is that? I guess I'm concerned.
Sure.
My interests are being represented by Mr. Ives, so I'd like to know when he's left out of things, who's representing me?
We represent everybody. And all I'm looking for, or was looking for, is a potential option that I'd actually had in my briefcase since 2005 and 2007 that was presented to the county board by myself and Sheriff Maduri at that time.
And that's
So-
what this is supposed to be, similar to
It'd be very similar,
2007?
not exactly, but similar to that. It's same concept. So to even further that, is our administrator here tonight?
No.
Okay. We asked Brett Skiles, our administrator, to join Commissioner DiNucci and myself to make it even more public. We were trying to be transparent. We weren't behind anybody's back, if that's the feeling that people have, but it was to explore another option. And that's what that's what our obligation as
And
county
you like
commissioners
that
are.
option?
Do I?
Yeah?
I do.
And tell me why that is.
I just think it fits well with the courthouse. It can tie in, it can use the annex space, which wouldn't be used in any other space, and it's a lot less money.
It's not a lot less money.
It's, when we're talking
In the total
millions,
scheme of things, that difference is not that significant in my opinion.
okay.
But at any rate, I don't see that your orange plan addresses any of the concerns of the courthouse. You show 2 courtrooms up there, but you don't show any plan for how you're making that building up-to-date, secure, up-to-date for technology-wise, all of those things. I don't see any of that.
Your Honor, I don't think at this point we're to that point. We had discussions on a board level today. I can't talk about
Then,
most of them.
if
but-
you're going to add those things, then that one's going to cost even more. Because you do not have one thing on there about securing the main building, much less the 3rd floor. Thank you.
How about any other questions? Mr. Casper.
Need to take care of your deputy. So I put a data request in way back because the original Dale Task Force had 0 transparency. They wouldn't let anybody attend. There were no lay persons on it but one. I finally basically embarrassed the sheriff into letting me attend one of those meetings.
Mr. Casper,
It's got nothing to do with what we're here for.
Yeah, it does.
No,
it doesn't.
Because it's going to address what Ms. Lang had to say here a minute ago. Here's a response back on a data request.
This is an open meeting.
John, this is not a board
Open
meeting.
house.
And I
He's not
understand
running
where
it.
you're coming from.
It's an
But
open
not a
house
board meeting.
to ask
You can bring that
questions
stuff up
that
later.
people might want to ask.
Yeah, and
And
I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to bring to light a data request that I put in, a response back from the sheriff. And what the last speaker was talking about was basically saying that I think that Mr. Snyder maybe was kind of doing something on his own here, and him and the other commissioner, and
he was doing everything legal,
yeah, correct.
and,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. He couldn't sit here and say, Burl, here's what we've had
Yeah,
for a talk.
with the quorum laws.
That's exactly.
We agree totally.
And
That's what I'm saying.
Totally agree with him on how he did that.
Yeah.
I just, so you're aware. Now your data request, this is an open house,
Correct.
questions and answers where everybody can understand
Yeah.
this.
What was the data request, Scott?
The one that I put in for the minutes of the previous jail task force, and that was after 12 of us tried to go to the jail task force meetings, and we were denied. We were kicked out of the courthouse at the time. So I had put that data request in, and this was your response. The jail task force is an exploratory advisory committee comprised of interested parties and community members. A few minutes ago, it was said here that there were individuals from the community on that. It was comprised all of officers of the court, 6 elected officials, 6 elected officials, yourself, and then some of the jail employees, basically, other than the one older individual, and I can't think what his name was because I sat next to him at that meeting that time.
And there was five public people, have nothing to do with the county. 2 of them dropped out and we were left with 3.
Okay, well, one of them was a
All right.
retired deputy.
He is a taxpayer just
No,
like,
I know,
just like you.
I'm not arguing that.
And a gentleman from Arbo and a gentleman from Nashwauk.
We had asked,
Okay.
that there be members from the community, experts in the community, laborers, carpenters, electricians, iron workers, millwrights,
This is a task.
accountants, and stay-at-home mom and dad. So everybody, because it's ironic that you just asked Mr. Butterfield about the land deal. One of those people might have been able to answer some of those questions about other land and stuff. But nobody was involved in that original task force to be able to do that. And I'll just finish this. So the jail task force is an exploratory advisory committee comprised of interested parties and community members. There are no bylaws or requirements which dictate that we take formal meeting minutes. Therefore, there has been no need to record any of the meetings. In addition, because I had asked for handwritten notes, in addition, the handwritten notes that are taken are destroyed after they have been typed. So that's just something I want to say. Thanks.
How about anybody else at this lovely evening we're having at the open house here? Any other questions?
Come on, guys, you're gonna have to pay for this.
Anybody else? How about asking any questions to Mr. Snyder? Was late. He was at a different meeting. I meant he was dealing with a different township north of town that he has to deal with. But go ahead.
My gut check is the numbers don't crunch, but if we make it a little bigger, could we get money out of St. Louis County, some of our money back by having them pay us for holding their prisoners?
Well,
We wish.
We have looked at ways of making revenue. All right. I mean, so the average to house him is $55 a day, say Aiken County.
Not counting my grocery bill.
Right. So, but now to house you, ma'am, I might get a little bit more money, and there's a lot more need for females. And by a lot more, I mean a lot more. That they'll travel 200 miles to have them, in a facility. There's a great need for female jail spots. So, and Sean can answer that, or Lucas can answer more of that for you than I can.
I want to be very cautious though. I always remind people in a service-based government entity, it's not really a moneymaker.
No.
Because no matter what, if you're expending money to keep people here, and they just give you the money back for feeding, housing, and what have you, the money that you're making is being expended somewhere. So it's not a moneymaker. What we want to do is address our needs, pay for our needs, and if there's something we can do to accommodate helping our neighbors by maybe housing 10 or 12 female prisoners, or we have a mental health accommodation that we can make because they don't have room for them. It's more of a trade between the counties. It doesn't really help reduce our costs, or we don't make millions off of doing this stuff. We are a service provider. That's why we are one of the ones that take the beating in society, because we exist, we cost money, and we provide services to incarcerate people and hold them, write them tickets for breaking the law, and serve them court papers. So for us to make money in that, if we're finding a way to make money providing a government service, there should be a question behind what we're doing, because we are a service provider.
How about another question for Mr. Snyder?
Why me?
Well, you're new. You came late.
Before we do end though, Terry, I did tell them about Arbo and Wabana next week. There's one on Monday and one Wednesday, and there's going to be several that the county board and the commissioners independently are going to have, and I think there's about 20 some meetings lined up now, or over 20.
And just as beneficial to the township meetings, the first and third Thursdays that we have our regular jail committee meeting
yeah.
In February, and I don't know the dates. What are they? The
6th and something. No.
5th and something. Yeah, 2 weeks later. We're going to do an open house from 5 to 7 that precedes our regular meeting. Right. And both Sean and Lucas and the commissioners will be there to answer any questions, just like you've done tonight. So.
The 6th and 20th?
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay.
On a Thursday?
Yep. So if you don't want to come again and you don't want to travel, you should come to the courthouse.
There was a gentleman here from Deer Lake, understand that there's going to be a meeting in Marcel,
Yep.
Big Fork, Effie, Squaw Lake, Deer River, Cohasset, couple in Grand Rapids, Nashwauk, Marble, Warba. I'm trying to set one up for Blackberry. So, I mean, we're trying to educate everybody as much as possible on this subject. So, yeah.
We really appreciate everybody coming.
But seeing no other hands go up, I thank everybody, and I thank Harris Township for allowing us to use this beautiful building, and Francis, I don't know where you're at, but you make dynamite cookies. Thank you so much. Yeah, she did. Okay. But thanks everybody for coming.